The sun of Varkon Prime burned bright over the arena, casting long shadows across the polished metal floor. Crowds of alien spectators from dozens of worlds filled the stands, their eyes glowing with anticipation. The arena itself was enormous, a circular coliseum that had hosted countless battles, duels, and exhibitions of strength. Above it, giant holo-screens displayed past champions, their names etched in brilliant light, honoring feats that had shaped the reputation of the Varkon League. Yet none of them could capture the attention like the newcomer entering today. Captain Lyra Hayes of Earth stood quietly at the edge of the arena gates. She wore her uniform neatly, her steel sword strapped across her back. It was a simple weapon, polished and plain, but its edge shimmered faintly under the sun. Her posture was calm, her breathing even. Around her, other challengers adjusted armor, flexed muscles, and prepared with tense energy. They all carried weapons that hummed with energy, blades of plasma, ionized whips, or heavy railhammers. The contrast between Mira's steel sword and the alien weapons was stark, and some of the crowd snickered at the primitive human. From the other side of the arena came the reigning champion, Krathul. Towering at over 10 feet tall, his muscular frame gleamed with battle-hardened scales. His eyes glowed with a pale violet light, and he held a massive plasma axe that crackled with energy. Sparks danced along its edge, and even from a distance, its power was intimidating. Krathul had never lost a match in his life, and he carried the arrogance of his victories like armor. His long claws drummed against the ground as he approached, and the crowd erupted in roars of recognition. As the two faced each other in the center of the arena, Krathul leaned forward slightly, his voice booming so that every corner of the Colosseum heard him. "A human? You dare step into this arena with that toy?" He gestured at Mira's sword. "Plasma beats steel. You will fall in moments, little creature." The crowd laughed. Some aliens jeered. Others placed bets on how quickly the human would be defeated. Mira did not flinch. She kept her calm, her eyes steady on Krathul. In her mind, she assessed him the way he shifted his weight, the way his axe pulsed with energy, and the way his massive form moved with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Mira's voice was soft, yet carried across the arena. "I am ready." She did not shout. She did not taunt. She simply raised her steel sword, the sunlight glinting off its edge. Krathul tilted his head, bemused. "Ready? You are already trembling, human. I can feel it." Mira's expression did not change. She did not tremble. Every muscle in her body was relaxed but alert. She shifted her stance slightly, placing her feet firmly on the ground, ready to move in any direction. It was a posture of complete confidence, one honed over years of training and countless simulations back on Earth. Her calmness was not fear. It was calculation. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the speakers. "Today, for the first time in history, the human challenger Captain Lyra Hayes will face the undefeated champion, Krathul. Let the duel begin." Krathul let out a roar and charged. The ground trembled with his steps, and sparks flew from the tips of his plasma axe as he swung in a massive overhead arc. The crowd gasped, expecting Mira to dodge or retreat, but she stood her ground, eyes focused, her steel sword held steady. As the plasma blade descended toward her, Mira moved with a simple step to the side. The axe met the edge of her sword with a deafening clash. Sparks flew, and a wave of heat radiated toward her. The crowd recoiled, shocked. Her sword did not melt. It did not shatter. A few spectators muttered in disbelief. Steel, holding against plasma? Impossible. But Mira only adjusted her grip and prepared for the next strike. Krathul's eyes widened in surprise. No human had ever blocked one of his strikes. Not with mere steel. Krathul swung again, faster this time, aiming to overwhelm her with sheer speed. Mira stepped, twisted, and blocked each strike with precise movements. Every clash rang out like thunder, sparks dancing in the air. And yet, Mira's calm never faltered. With every block, she learned something about her opponent. The way he moved, the moments when his power peaked, the tiniest shift of weight before a strike, all these she memorized. The crowd began to quiet, sensing something different. This human was not like the others. Her sword seemed alive in her hands, following her intentions perfectly. It was no ordinary weapon, and her skill was beyond anything they had expected. Crothul's anger grew. No one had ever made him feel uncertain. He attacked with heavier swings, spinning with his massive frame, trying to crush her with force alone. But Mira was always just out of reach, dodging, parrying, and keeping her calm. Every time the plasma axe slammed against her sword, sparks flew, and a wave of energy rolled outward. Yet her steel blade held firm. For a moment, the arena was silent, except for the sound of clashing metal and the heavy breathing of the two combatants. Mira's strategy became clear. She was not relying on brute force. She was observing, waiting, and controlling the pace of the duel. Her calmness was a weapon in itself, a steady rhythm that Crothul could not break. After several exchanges, Crothul paused briefly, breathing heavily. He could feel something unusual. The human did not fear him. She did not rely on flashy movements. Every strike was deliberate, every dodge precise. His confidence, built over countless victories, was shaken for the first time. Mira took a small step forward and said, softly, "You rely too much on strength. Skill matters more than power." The words carried a weight Crothul had not expected. He snarled, swinging his axe in frustration. But even in anger, he could not find an opening. Mira's calmness was like water against rock, unmoving, yet persistent. The crowd, once laughing at the human, now leaned forward in fascination. Whispers spread across the stands. "She is amazing. How can a human match plasma? Look at her calm. She is not afraid." Mira's mind was clear. She remembered her training, her countless hours in simulation, and the advice of her instructors back on Earth. Observe first, act second. Let him reveal himself. Every movement she made followed this rule. She stayed calm, never reacting with haste, and it frustrated Crothul further. As the sun reached its zenith, the first part of the duel continued. Each strike, each block, and each step told a story of human determination and skill. Mira's presence in the arena was more than a challenge, it was a statement. Humans, though smaller and seemingly weaker than many alien species, had something more: intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Crothul roared, swinging his axe with renewed fury, and the arena shook. But Mira's steel sword met the plasma again, sparks flying, her calm unbroken. The crowd could not look away. For the first time, a human had truly captured the attention of the galaxy. The duel had begun, and already, it was clear that this was not going to be an ordinary fight. This was the moment when the galaxy would remember the name Mira Hayes, the human who faced plasma with steel, and did so with unwavering calm. The roar of the crowd echoed across the arena, blending with the hiss and crackle of Crothul's plasma axe. Mira Hayes adjusted her grip on her steel sword, her calm stance unwavering. Every eye in the arena watched the duel unfold, alien and human alike holding their breath. This was no ordinary match. It was a collision of raw power and skill, of tradition and innovation, of sheer strength versus disciplined precision. Crothul lunged forward, swinging his plasma axe in a wide arc meant to crush her instantly. The bright, electric energy at the edge of the blade left a shimmering trail in the air. The spectators gasped, expecting Mira to retreat. But instead, she stepped lightly to the side, letting the massive weapon pass inches from her face. Sparks scattered across the metal floor as her steel sword intercepted the back of the strike, the metal ringing like a bell. Some of the crowd leaned forward in disbelief. A human, armed only with steel, had blocked a strike powerful enough to shatter the bones of most species. Krathul's eyes narrowed. This human was different. He could feel it, an aura of focus and control he had never encountered before. Impressive, but not enough, he growled, spinning the plasma axe in a deadly circular motion. The energy blade glowed brighter with every rotation, humming through the air like a living creature. He aimed the tip directly at Mira's chest, intending to end the duel quickly. Mira did not flinch. She held her sword ready, analyzing the rhythm of Krathul's movements. Every swing, every step, every subtle twist of his body revealed something. She saw the way his shoulder tensed just before a strike, the slight delay when he changed direction, the pressure of his stance that left him vulnerable for a brief moment. With a swift step to the side, she deflected the plasma tip with her blade. Sparks flew outward, illuminating the arena with bursts of blue and gold. The crowd cheered, many rising from their seats in excitement. She had survived the first true test, and she had done so with grace, not fear. Krathul growled in frustration, circling her slowly now. "You are quick, human. But you cannot keep this up forever." He swung his axe again, more cautiously this time, trying to trap her into a corner. But Mira anticipated his movements. She slid her foot across the metal floor, pivoting and stepping back with perfect timing. Each block and dodge was precise, almost like a dance. "Steel is weak," Krathul said loudly, trying to unsettle her. "Even a scratch will fail against my plasma." Mira shook her head slightly, her expression calm. "Strength alone is not victory. Timing and control matter more than power." Her words carried a weight he did not expect. For a moment, Krathul hesitated. No one had spoken to him like that. No one had dared to challenge his arrogance in such a simple, direct way. That hesitation was all Mira needed. She lunged forward, tapping the flat of her sword against his leg armor. The sound echoed through the arena, a light yet deliberate strike that was more about precision than harm. The crowd gasped. Krathul stumbled slightly, surprised that her steel blade had made any impact at all. Mira smiled faintly, her calm never breaking. She had proven that the human's skill was not in the weapon itself but in how it was used. Krathul's eyes burned with a mixture of anger and curiosity. "What trick is this?" he demanded, swinging the plasma axe in a more aggressive pattern. He began using combinations he had never used before, attacks designed to overwhelm the senses. The glowing blade moved faster and faster, leaving trails of energy that distorted the air around it. Mira did not panic. She read the rhythm of his movements, predicting the path of each swing before it came. She parried, dodged, and redirected, her body flowing with a balance that seemed almost unnatural for a human. The clash of steel and plasma rang out repeatedly, sparks scattering across the arena like tiny stars. The alien spectators were stunned. How can she do this?" whispered one of the tallest warriors in the stands. "It should be impossible for her to survive even a single strike." Yet Mira did not stop. She adjusted her stance slightly, angling her sword to deflect the next strike, with less effort, conserving her energy while keeping Krathul off balance. Every step she took was measured, every movement intentional. She allowed the massive plasma axe to follow its path, then used its momentum against it, guiding the weapon away from her body. Krathul's frustration grew. He roared, striking harder, faster, and more unpredictably. Mira's calm gaze did not waver. She noticed the smallest signs, the twitch of a muscle, the tilt of his head, the shift in weight that told her where the next attack would come. She was learning him, understanding him, and the more she observed, the more control she gained over the duel. The crowd began to murmur in excitement. The human who had seemed weak and unarmed was not only surviving, she was dictating the pace of the battle. Some speculated she had some hidden weapon, some alien trick. But others began to notice it was not the sword or technology, it was her mind, her focus, her calm. Skill. Patience. Strategy, whispered an elder alien in the stands. She is not fighting with strength. She is fighting with intelligence. Krathul swung his axe downward in a wide, crushing motion. Mira stepped to the side, twisting her body gracefully. Her sword met the plasma edge, sparks flying like fireworks. The energy from the axe surged into the steel, and yet her blade held firm. She leaned slightly, letting the force slide past her, and countered with a light tap against his side armor. It was not enough to wound him, but enough to make him stagger. The spectators erupted into cheers and gasps. The human had survived a strike that would have destroyed nearly any opponent. Mira's calm, methodical movements had begun to turn the duel in her favor, not by brute force, but by cleverness, observation, and perfect timing. Krathul realized something critical. He had underestimated her. He had assumed humans were weak, that their weapons were primitive, that their bodies could not endure a battle of this magnitude. But now, after minutes of intense combat, he understood his mistake. This human was not just enduring, she was thriving under pressure. She was turning his strength into her advantage. His frustration mounted. He began swinging wildly, trying to break her concentration. But Mira anticipated his every strike, every arc of plasma, every step he took. Her sword moved like an extension of herself, precise and controlled. Every block and parry conserved her energy and forced Krathul to expend more of his. The crowd was on its feet, some cheering for the human, others watching in awe. Even Krathul's supporters were beginning to doubt him. The reigning champion, the undefeated, the terror of the arena, was being pushed back, not by a superior weapon, but by a superior mind. Mira took a deep breath, her focus unwavering. She could feel the heat of the plasma, the vibration of the strikes, the raw force behind each swing. Yet she remained calm, analyzing, calculating, observing. She had trained for this, not just physically, but mentally. She had learned that fear was useless, and patience was power. She moved forward, tapping his armor again with the flat of her blade, light and precise. Krathul stumbled slightly, his massive frame unbalanced. Mira's calm, quiet strength was becoming more apparent with every passing second. You are not like the others," Krathul growled, sweat and energy rippling across his body. "You do not fear me. You think before you strike. Why? 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 Why?" Mira's voice was calm, steady, and quiet enough for only him to hear. "Because I understand that victory is not just about strength. It is about knowing your opponent, controlling your own actions, and never underestimating what you do not understand." The words hung in the air, powerful despite their simplicity. Krathul's confidence wavered, a crack forming in the armor of arrogance he had worn for years. For the first time, he felt respect and fear toward this human. The duel continued, each clash echoing through the arena, but now the balance had shifted. Mira was no longer simply defending. She had begun to anticipate Krathul's attacks, guiding him into positions where his strength was less effective. Her movements were elegant, calculated, and mesmerizing. The crowd watched in awe as the human who seemed weak, armed only with steel, outmaneuvered the alien champion. By the time the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the arena with shades of gold and red, the first phase of the duel had reached a turning point. Krathul, the undefeated champion, had finally met a challenger he could not overpower. And Mira Hayes, the human warrior, remained calm, collected, and ready for whatever came next. It was clear to everyone watching that this duel was far from over, but one thing was certain. The galaxy would never underestimate a human again. The arena was alive with tension. The golden light of Varkon Prime's setting sun glinted off the polished metal floor, casting long, dramatic shadows. Krothul's breathing was heavy, his massive chest rising and falling as he tried to process the challenge in front of him. The human, Lyra Hayes, remained calm, her steel sword steady in her grip, her eyes focused with quiet intensity. Every movement of hers was deliberate, controlled, and precise, as if she could see the flow of energy before it even existed. Krothul swung his plasma axe with force unmatched in the arena, hoping to end the duel quickly. The glowing blade tore through the air, leaving a trail of light. Lyra, as always, did not panic. She met the strike with her sword, sparks flying as steel met plasma. Each clash was a demonstration of pure technique, a battle not just of strength, but of intelligence and timing. The crowd watched in awe, realizing that this was no ordinary human. "How is she holding her ground?" whispered an elder alien in the stands. Even the strongest warriors would be burned to pieces by that weapon. Krothul felt the truth of it more than anyone else. His confidence, once absolute, now wavered. This human was not relying on luck. Every dodge, every parry, every step was calculated. And then, as he attacked again, Lyra moved differently fluid, almost like water flowing around a stone. Krothul staggered back slightly as a faint tap of her sword grazed his side armor. Not enough to wound, but enough to force him to step back and reconsider. His brow furrowed as he tried to understand her technique. "You rely on energy and strength, human," he growled, frustration lacing his voice. "You have no power to match mine. How can steel stand against plasma?" Mira's calm gaze did not falter. She stepped forward, her sword angled to catch the last sparks of his plasma axe as it came down. "It is not the weapon that matters," she said quietly. "It is the one who wields it." Her words were simple, but they struck Krothul more than any blade could. For the first time in his life, he faced someone who did not fear him, someone whose skill matched his strength. The human's calm was like a force itself, steady, unyielding, and impossible to intimidate. As Krothul swung again, Lyra allowed herself a moment to demonstrate something unusual. Instead of blocking with force, she guided his plasma axe slightly to the side, letting the energy flow harmlessly past her. Sparks shot across the arena, drawing gasps from the audience. The crowd murmured excitedly, many pointing at her sword. It did not bend. It did not melt. It simply absorbed and redirected energy with every strike. One spectator whispered, "Her sword. It is more than steel. It is engineered." Lyra heard nothing but the rhythm of the fight. She sensed Krothul's fatigue building, even though he did not show it clearly. His swings were slightly slower, his steps less precise. She had observed him, learned his strengths and weaknesses, and now she was ready to take the next step. "You think my weapon is primitive," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But it is not just steel. It is made with techniques humans have perfected over centuries. Sometimes old knowledge, when combined with skill, can surpass the newest inventions." Krothul's massive frame tensed. "What do you mean?" he demanded. Lyra smiled faintly. She raised her sword slightly and shifted her stance, demonstrating the balance and precision of her movements. "Your plasma is strong. Yes, but strength alone cannot control the flow of a duel. I do not rely on force. I rely on timing, observation, and the bond between me and my sword. That is why I can meet your plasma without fear. That is why steel can stand against energy." Krothul's expression changed. He had faced countless warriors across countless worlds, but never one who could explain their technique so clearly, and then demonstrate it flawlessly in battle. His confidence wavered. He attacked again, harder, faster, more aggressively, but Mira's calm remained unbroken. She blocked, deflected, and redirected with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. Her movements flowed like water, soft yet unstoppable, guiding his energy instead of resisting it. Each tap of her sword against his armor, each carefully timed step, was a lesson in precision, patience, and control. The crowd was completely captivated. The human had transformed from a laughingstock to a spectacle of awe. Aliens whispered among themselves, amazed that a simple steel sword could not only survive plasma strikes, but also allow its wielder to dominate the flow of battle. Crothul, frustrated and exhausted, swung wildly, hoping to catch her off guard. Mira stepped lightly, almost dancing across the arena floor. She tilted her sword, letting the plasma energy glance off harmlessly. She responded with a tap of her blade to his leg, forcing him to stagger slightly. The crowd gasped again. You are not just a fighter," Crothul muttered, now breathing heavily. You understand this fight. In a way I cannot." Mira's calm eyes met his. "Understanding is more powerful than strength," she said simply. "Your weapon is impressive. But a weapon without skill is nothing. Even plasma can be guided, redirected, or avoided." Crothul swung again, but this time Mira countered in a more advanced way. Instead of just blocking, she used his momentum to guide him off balance. Sparks flew as steel met plasma, and the massive champion stumbled forward, nearly losing his footing. The audience erupted into cheers. They had never seen a human display such mastery. "You teach humans?" Crothul asked, panting. You are not like any other I have faced." Mira shook her head slightly, keeping her focus. "I do not need to teach others to face you," she said. "I only need to understand myself and my weapon. That is enough." The realization hit Crothul like a shock. He had assumed humans were weak, primitive, and fragile. He had expected fear, hesitation, and retreat. But this human was none of those things. She was calm, clever, and capable beyond his understanding. The arena fell into a tense silence as the duel continued. Crothul's attacks grew desperate. He relied less on technique and more on raw power, swinging his plasma axe in wide arcs, trying to overwhelm her. But Mira remained composed, reading his movements, countering with precision, and using her skill to conserve energy while forcing him to exhaust his own. For every powerful strike Crothul delivered, Mira had a measured response. Her steel sword, ordinary by many standards, became extraordinary in her hands. It reflected her discipline, her focus, and her deep understanding of combat. It was more than a weapon. It was an extension of her mind and body. The crowd, once skeptical, now cheered wildly. Whispers of admiration spread across the arena. "She is incredible. How can a human be so skilled? Her sword. It is more than steel, it is human ingenuity." Crothul, breathing heavily, took a step back. His plasma axe glowed brighter, humming with energy, as if sensing his frustration. You are not just lucky," he admitted. You are skilled. Far beyond anything I expected." Mira nodded slightly, keeping her calm demeanor. "Luck is not part of this fight," she said. "Observation, timing, and understanding are. And knowing your opponent is the key to victory." For a moment, the arena seemed to hold its breath. The human and the alien champion stood across from each other, one embodying calm intelligence, the other raw strength and experience. Sparks still danced where their weapons had met, but the real clash was no longer just physical. It was a battle of minds, of strategy, and of understanding. Crothul swung his plasma axe again, but this time Mira was ready. She anticipated his move, blocked, redirected the energy harmlessly, and tapped her sword against his side once more. Crothul staggered, realizing that the human had not only survived his attacks, but had learned to use his own power against him. You are different, Crothul admitted, his voice tinged with respect. I underestimated you. Mira's calm gaze met his. Do not underestimate anyone, she said softly. Every being has strength in some form, and sometimes, the simplest tools, when used wisely, can be stronger than the most advanced weapons. The sun dipped lower, painting the arena in hues of orange and red. Shadows stretched across the floor. But Mira's presence remained steady and bright, a symbol of human resilience, intelligence, and courage. The duel had reached a turning point not just in skill, but in understanding. Crothul now knew that victory would not come from raw power alone. He would need to face strategy, patience, and a human who refused to be intimidated. The first half of the duel had ended with a revelation. Steel could withstand plasma, skill could surpass strength, and humans could achieve greatness in ways the galaxy had not yet imagined. And Mira Hayes, calm and unwavering, was ready to continue the fight, teaching the galaxy a lesson about courage, intelligence, and the power of the human spirit. The arena was silent, except for the clash of weapons and the heavy breathing of two warriors. Varkon Prime's twin suns dipped closer to the horizon, casting an orange glow over the polished metal floor. Sparks still flew from the repeated collisions of steel and plasma, illuminating the faces of the spectators with every flash. For hours, the duel had continued. Each exchange a test of strength, skill, and mind. Now, both combatants reached a moment that could decide everything. Crothul's massive plasma axe glowed brighter than ever, humming with energy that seemed to vibrate through the very air. His strikes grew faster, heavier, more aggressive. He aimed to overwhelm Mira Hayes by sheer force, relying on the raw power that had never failed him before. Every swing tore through the air like thunder, and every swing carried the expectation of victory. Mira, however, remained calm. She adjusted her stance slightly, feeling the rhythm of the fight, the flow of energy around her, and the smallest hint of weakness in her opponent's movements. She was no longer reacting to Crothul's attacks. She was anticipating them, reading the subtle signs of fatigue, missteps, and overconfidence. Every block, every deflection, every shift of her body was intentional, conserving energy while guiding the fight toward her advantage. The crowd leaned forward, sensing that the tide of battle was about to turn. Aliens whispered among themselves, eyes wide with astonishment. The human. She is not just surviving, one said. She is controlling him. Crothul roared, swinging the plasma axe in a wide, arcing strike designed to crush her in one blow. The crowd gasped as the weapon glowed fiercely, the energy surging with deadly intent. Mira's eyes narrowed slightly, and she did not move backward. She did not panic. She met the strike with her steel sword, letting the plasma energy glide along the blade harmlessly. Sparks erupted in every direction as the crowd held their breath. With a subtle shift of her weight, Mira redirected Crothul's momentum. His massive body swayed, the unexpected guidance throwing him slightly off balance. The once unshakable champion staggered. The crowd erupted in excitement, some cheering, some whispering in awe. The human, seemingly fragile, had gained control over the flow of the duel. How? Crothul growled, his violet eyes narrowing with both surprise and frustration. This cannot be possible. Crothul! 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 Mira's expression remained calm, almost serene. She took a small, deliberate step forward, her sword angled with perfect precision. You underestimate skill, she said simply. Strength alone does not win battles. Understanding, timing, and control do. Crothul's roar shook the arena. He swung his axe again with all his might. But Mira was ready. Instead of meeting the strike with force, she allowed the axe to follow its natural path, her sword sliding along the plasma's edge. Sparks flew outward like miniature stars, and for a moment, the entire arena seemed suspended in the brilliance of light and heat. Then, with a gentle tap, she struck the side of Crothul's armor. Not enough to wound him, but enough to force him to step back and reconsider. The audience erupted into cheers. "She is incredible. The human controls him. Look at her calm. Look at her skill." Aliens from dozens of worlds shouted and clapped, unable to contain their astonishment. Crothul's breathing was heavy now. He had underestimated her from the start, assuming humans were weak and their weapons primitive. Yet here she stood, standing her ground, turning his power against him and forcing him into positions where his size and strength were no longer advantages. Every attack he made was met with precise defense, every momentum redirected, every opportunity used against him. "You are different from any warrior I have faced," Crothul admitted, his voice strained. You are not afraid. You are patient." "Why?" Mira's gaze was steady, unwavering. "Because fear is useless," she said quietly, "and patience is power. I do not fight with anger or pride. I fight with understanding. That is why I can stand against your plasma, and why steel can meet energy." Crothul swung again, this time in desperation. His attacks were faster, wilder, more unpredictable. He tried to overwhelm her, to force her into a mistake. But Mira anticipated, parried, and guided each strike, her sword moving as an extension of her mind and body. She danced across the arena floor with light, calculated steps, never wasting effort, never losing focus. Every movement was precise, every block deliberate, every tap purposeful. The arena spectators watched in awe. They had never seen a human demonstrate such mastery, such control, such complete understanding of combat. The whispers spread. "It is not the sword that is powerful, it is the human. She is teaching the champion a lesson he cannot ignore. Skill, intelligence, courage." Crothul realized the truth. He had assumed his plasma axe made him invincible. He had relied on raw power and intimidation. But now, faced with Mira, he understood the mistake. Victory required more than strength. It required wisdom, focus, and understanding of oneself and one's opponent. He began to feel respect, even fear, for the first time in his life. The duel reached its climax. Crothul launched his most powerful attack, a massive overhead swing that generated a surge of plasma energy, enough to level the arena floor. The bright blue-white glow lit up every corner, and the hum of energy vibrated through the stands. The spectators gasped, knowing that this strike could end the duel in an instant. Mira did not flinch. She stood her ground, sword raised, her mind clear and focused. Instead of dodging backward, she met the strike head-on, angling her blade to catch the energy and redirect it harmlessly. Sparks and energy cascaded around her like fireworks, and the crowd gasped in awe. Crothul staggered. The energy that had flowed so freely now slid along her sword, harmless, and her calm, precise tap against his armor disrupted his balance. For the first time, the champion faltered. His massive body swayed, his grip tightened, and a flash of astonishment crossed his violet eyes. The arena erupted. Spectators cheered wildly, some standing, some shouting in disbelief. The human had done what no one had ever done before. She had survived the champion's ultimate strike without fear, without hesitation, and without losing control. Mira saw her moment. Every observation, every step, every block had led to this. She had learned his patterns, understood his strengths and weaknesses, and now the time had come to seize control. Slowly, calmly, she raised her sword, her gaze unwavering, her posture firm. She did not rush. She did not panic. She acted with absolute precision. "Victory is not in the weapon," she said quietly, yet with a voice strong enough for him to hear. "It is in the one who wields it." Krathul froze, realizing the truth in her words. He had relied on the power of his plasma axe, on his size and strength, on fear and intimidation. But the human before him had demonstrated something far more powerful. Skill, intelligence, patience, and unwavering calm. His strikes had been guided. His strength turned against him. His confidence shaken. With a final, graceful step, Mira tapped her sword against his chest. Not with the edge, not with force, but with the perfect precision that only years of training and focus could achieve. Krathul staggered back, his massive frame unsteady. The crowd erupted in cheers, the sound deafening. A mix of astonishment, excitement, and admiration. The human had gained the upper hand. The champion, the undefeated, the strongest warrior in the arena, had been shown that skill, courage, and calm could surpass raw strength. And Mira Hayes, standing in the center of the arena, raised her steel sword high, a symbol not just of victory, but of human determination, ingenuity, and spirit. For the first time in the history of the Varkon arena, the audience understood something profound. Strength alone was not enough. Power could be matched. Energy could be redirected. And humans, underestimated for centuries, could achieve greatness through courage, focus, and intelligence. Krathul, breathing heavily, knelt slightly, not from injury, but from respect. He understood that this duel was more than a battle of weapons. It was a lesson in humility, patience, and the power of the human mind. The arena fell into a tense, expectant silence as both warriors paused, ready for the final phase of the duel. Mira's calm presence radiated confidence. She had turned the tide. She had taken the first step toward victory, and the galaxy watched, captivated, as the human who faced plasma with steel prepared for the final, decisive moment. The arena was alive with tension, every spectator holding their breath. The suns of Varkon Prime were low in the sky, bathing the Colosseum in a golden-orange glow. Sparks still floated from the countless clashes between Mira's steel sword and Krathul's plasma axe. The massive alien warrior, for the first time in his life, felt uncertainty. A rare and unsettling sensation. And the human, Mira Hayes, stood calm, poised, and ready, radiating confidence that seemed to defy every expectation. Krathul's muscles tensed, and he swung his plasma axe in one final, desperate attempt to regain control. The glowing energy blade cut through the air like lightning, its hum vibrating through the arena. Spectators gasped, knowing the sheer power behind the strike could have crushed almost any being. Yet Mira remained still, sword raised, eyes sharp, and mind focused. Instead of dodging, she met the strike directly. With a subtle twist of her wrist and a precise angle of her blade, the plasma energy slid harmlessly along the steel. Sparks erupted outward, illuminating the arena in a cascade of light. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The crowd froze, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Steel, simple human steel, had survived the full force of the champion's ultimate attack. Krathul stumbled slightly, the unexpected resistance throwing him off balance. His massive frame wavered, and for the first time, doubt crept into his violet eyes. Mira had not only survived, she had redirected his energy, weakened his advantage, and gained control of the duel. She stepped forward, her movements deliberate and calm, her sword a steady extension of herself. Every step mirrored the hours of practice, the countless simulations, and the mental discipline that had shaped her into a warrior unlike any other. Her calm radiated strength, and the audience could feel it too. Whispers spread throughout the stands. She is fearless. Steel against plasma. Humans. They are incredible. Krathul's roar shook the arena. but it carried more frustration than confidence now. He swung again. Faster. Heavier. But Mira anticipated each movement. She blocked, deflected, and guided his strikes, her sword moving in perfect harmony with his momentum. Every action she took conserved her energy, while forcing him to expend his. The battle was no longer about who was stronger. It was about who could outthink, outmaneuver, and remain calm under pressure. You are not like any human I have faced, Krathul admitted, breathless and frustrated. You think. You observe. You do not fear. Mira's eyes remained steady, her expression calm. Fear is wasted energy, she said softly. Patience and understanding are power. You may have strength, but skill and focus can overcome it. The massive champion roared, swinging wildly. But Mira's strategy was clear. She had learned every pattern, every subtle motion, every hint of weakness. She moved lightly, each step precise, each block deliberate. Sparks flew as steel met plasma repeatedly, but she remained untouched. And then, the moment arrived. Krathul overextended in a massive overhead swing, his plasma axe humming with maximum energy. Mira's eyes narrowed slightly, calculating the timing, the angle, the exact moment. She stepped forward calmly, her sword angled perfectly, and met the strike head-on. The plasma energy slid along the blade harmlessly, and with a controlled movement, she tapped the flat of her sword against Krathul's chest armor. The crowd gasped. The champion staggered, his massive frame unsteady. Sparks flew as the energy dissipated, and for the first time, Krathul's purple eyes widened in astonishment. He had been shown the limits of his strength, the vulnerability in his overconfidence. The audience erupted into cheers, a deafening roar that echoed across the arena and beyond. Spectators from dozens of worlds shouted and clapped, witnessing a moment of history. A human, armed only with steel and skill, had gained the upper hand over the galaxy's greatest warrior. Mira did not raise her voice or taunt. She only stood firm, sword raised, eyes focused. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the massive alien, whose pride and rage had fueled the duel until now. She had proven that victory did not come from power alone, it came from patience, understanding, and mastery of oneself and one's tools. Krathul, breathing heavily, slowly sank to one knee, not out of injury, but out of respect. He looked up at Mira, eyes filled with something he had never experienced in the arena before: admiration. His plasma axe hummed softly as he lowered it, acknowledging defeat without a single word. You have taught me something I did not know, Krathul said, his voice quiet but deep. Strength alone is not everything. Mira nodded slightly, her expression calm and kind. Every warrior has strengths, she replied, but knowing how to use them and knowing when to remain calm, that is what makes a champion. The crowd's cheers intensified. Humans, long underestimated across the galaxy, had proven that courage, intelligence, and focus could surpass raw power. Whispers spread quickly, spreading news of the human warrior who had faced plasma with steel and emerged victorious. Mira lowered her sword slightly, stepping back to allow Krathul to rise. She offered her hand, not as a threat, but as a gesture of honor and respect. For the first time, the champion accepted such a gesture from an opponent. He grasped her hand firmly, and the two stood together, facing the cheering crowd. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the speakers. For the first time in history, a human has defeated the undefeated champion of Varkon Prime, Captain Mira Hayes Victor. The crowd erupted into wild celebration. Spectators from countless worlds waved banners, cheered, and recorded the historic moment. The human spirit had triumphed not through superior technology, not through overwhelming force, but through intelligence, courage, and mastery of skill. Mira's victory became more than a personal achievement. It became a symbol. Across the galaxy, beings spoke of the human who had challenged convention and proven that even seemingly simple tools, in the hands of a master, could surpass the most advanced weapons. Children whispered her name with awe. Warriors reconsidered their assumptions about humans. Leaders of other species took note of Earth's ingenuity and discipline. Krathul, still kneeling, looked at Mira with deep respect. "Your people are stronger than I imagined," he admitted. "You have a courage, a calmness I have never seen before. You are extraordinary." Mira smiled faintly, a small gesture of humility. "Every being has potential," she said. "Even you. Strength is not meaningless. It is just one part of victory. Patience, observation, and calm can achieve what brute power cannot." As the suns of Varkon Prime sank below the horizon, the arena filled with golden light. Sparks from the duel's climax floated gently in the air, and the spectators cheered long after the final clash. The moment had become legend, a testament to human determination and spirit. Mira walked to the center of the arena, raising her sword one final time. The steel gleamed, catching the last rays of sunlight, a symbol not of war or aggression, but of mastery, courage, and human ingenuity. Aliens and humans alike understood something profound. It was not the weapon, nor the strength, that defined a warrior. It was the heart, the mind, and the courage to remain calm in the face of impossible odds. Krathul rose beside her, his massive frame towering, but his expression softened. He bowed slightly, an unspoken acknowledgement of respect. The two warriors, once opponents, now stood together as equals in the eyes of the galaxy. News of Mira Hayes's victory spread quickly, faster than any plasma strike. Reports traveled across systems, inspiring humans and aliens alike. Schools on Earth studied her techniques. Alien academies examined her calm approach. Leaders discussed the implications. Perhaps humans were not as fragile as they had been thought. Perhaps they were stronger, smarter, and more adaptable than anyone had imagined. Mira, however, returned to her calm demeanor. She did not seek fame or glory. She had fought the duel with honor, relying on skill, observation, and patience. Her sword, though simple, had become an instrument of proof. The human spirit could rise above expectations and face challenges that seemed impossible. The arena slowly emptied, the spectators still buzzing with excitement and awe. Mira Hayes walked from the field, her sword at her side, her mind focused but relaxed. Krathul followed, silent but thoughtful, having learned a lesson in humility and respect. Together, they had shown the galaxy something new. That strength, when guided by understanding, patience, and courage, could achieve greatness beyond imagination. As night fell over Varkon Prime, the stars shone bright above the arena. Mira looked up at the sky, thinking of Earth, of her training, and of all the challenges yet to come. She knew this victory was only the beginning. Humanity had proven its place in the galaxy, and she was ready to continue showing that determination, intelligence, and calm courage could change the course of history. The human who faced plasma with steel had won. Not just a duel, but respect, admiration, and a place in the hearts of all who witnessed her skill. And the story of Captain Mira Hayes would echo across the stars for generations, a lesson in courage, mastery, and the unbreakable human spirit.